Shana Tova, everyone. I'm Rabbi Elizabeth Bonney-Cohen, one of the base rabbis. I'm stationed here in Boston, and I also happen to be a congregational rabbi at Congregation Kehileth Israel in Brookline, Massachusetts. I'm getting ready to share some words of Torah with my congregation for Rosh Hashanah, and I thought I would share those words, or a summary of those words, with you as well. I don't know about you, but when I think back at this last year, I feel totally exhausted. I just feel like we've been kind of caught in a riptide with waves crashing in over our head again and again and again, and we're just doing anything we can to gasp for air and come just above the surface. You know, this time last year, at this calendar date last year, we were right in the midst of the Cavanaugh hearings. And I don't know about you, but for me, that time was exhausting. It was just seeing on display these wrenching testimonies of sexual violence and this culture that perpetuates this imbalance of power. And I felt deeply pained, not only for what I was seeing and what was unfolding, but also the past trauma that was opening up in people's lives that people were sharing with me, that I was experiencing for myself. It was just exhausting. And then, kind of shifting, we came into a brand new building. My congregation moved into this incredible building that it had been working on for like 18 months. That morning, the first morning that we were here, I gave a sermon about hospitality, inviting in the stranger, how important it is to welcome those who aren't usually shul goers. And it was wonderful. Everyone was so excited, so happy to be there, and so inspired to welcome in new faces. Later that day, though, I remember kind of the next wave hitting when I turned on my phone after Shabbat to find out the news of the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue earlier that morning. Basically, at the same time that I was talking about hospitality to the stranger, a stranger was opening fire on a congregation. And so it immediately made me feel this tension with these words that I'd spoken. You know, are we supposed to be a fortress that's protecting our congregants and making sure that there's a safe place for them to pray? Or are we supposed to be a sanctuary with doors wide open for anybody who wants to come in and anybody who's seeking to connect with Jewish community and Jewish spirituality? And those are just kind of two waves. There were other waves too. We had, and still have, children locked in cages, mass shootings, tweets, Me Too, anti-Semitism, overnight policy changes, human trafficking, distracting political scandals. I mean, it's like headline after headline, wave after beating wave. These things come. And that's just our national scale. We also have these personal waves impacting us: grief, job loss, fertility challenges, addiction, abuse, isolation, mental health struggles. We've just been inundated and bombarded, just left gasping. It's like there's this riptide, this momentum of this riptide that's carrying us into deeper and deeper waters. And I don't know about you, but I just feel totally exhausted. As I was doing some research for this Devar Torah, I researched riptides. Like, was it something that you can get out of at some point, or does it just suck you in, and are you just doomed forever to drown? And I found that actually a riptide is kind of like a narrow current that's going, a narrow channel that is going between two currents on either side. The narrow channel is going out into deeper and deeper waters, and the currents on either side are more gentle, and they're coming back to shore. So our first instinct when caught in a riptide is to swim, as fast as we can, frantically back towards the shore. But actually, that's the most likely way for us to just become totally exhausted, totally depleted, and actually have a higher risk of drowning. What I learned is that in order to escape a riptide, you have to swim perpendicular to it so that you can be finally released from its current. And actually, when you're finally released out of that channel of the riptide, you're immediately kind of grasped by the current that's going in the other direction, the current that's coming and taking you to shore. And it's actually helping us to return to shore. And so in this metaphor that I've been kind of using, if society at large, the politics, the controversy, the polarization, the fear, if all of that is this riptide that's pulling us into these deep and treacherous waters, then what's the current that will bring us back? And this season is known as this time of return. And I think that the Jewish calendar can be the current that can help us do just that can help us return to shore. Now, some might say that this calendar season, the holidays, are just yet another wave coming to disrupt our regular lives. And I think in a lot of ways that can be true. But I think that we can also think of our holiday as disrupting not our lives, but actually disrupting the current that's carrying us into these deep waters. It can be disruptive in a different sense. And, we talk about tshuva a lot during this time, and tshuva is often translated as repentance. And that's certainly a fair translation of tshuva, but it can also be translated as return. And this is the season of return. I think that it's an important reminder to us that there is always opportunity to return. Just like when we're caught in the riptide, we can return. And, Elul has been this month leading up until now. We've heard the sound of the shofar literally every day of this month, kind of calling to us from shore. It's calling out to us. It's saying, come back. You're not too far. You still have time to return. And when we hear it, it can be an opportunity for us to kind of pause our frantic paddling, to kind of slow our anxious breathing, and to just slightly begin to change our course. Then Rosh Hashanah comes, and that shofar blast is much louder. We hear it 100 times calling to us on Rosh Hashanah, cheering us on in our efforts to defeat this current that's pushing against us. And we believe its optimism. We give way to its hope. And then next, we're commanded to make amends. So we spend the next week between then and Yom Kippur reconciling with others, and we offer forgiveness and we seek forgiveness. And we put down these burdens of resentment that we've been carrying, and that allows us to feel lighter, kind of more buoyant as we move through these surrounding waters. And then comes Yom Kippur, and after we've repaired our relationships with one another, we turn to our relationship with God. We call out in our pain, and we feel held in a connection to something that's so much bigger than ourselves. And the force, the pull of that connection draws us through those rough waters until finally we break through that current of return. We break through, and that current of return is waiting for us. Its momentum continues to propel us closer and closer to shore. We have Shabbat, Sukkot, Shabbat, Simchat Torah, Shabbat again. They're like these waves kind of lapping ever so softly to pull us, to carry us, to reinforce this new rhythm that will come to define our existence. And when we finally look up, we'll realize that the waters, while they still surround us, that we're held and we're propelled by a force much greater than that against which we were fighting to survive not so long ago. The Or HaChaim says that the Talmud suggests that once a positive or negative momentum has been built, that it feeds upon itself unless something contrary happens to it. I love this idea. And I hope that this time, this holiday time, this Jewish calendar can be that something contrary. We've been stuck in this momentum of negative, toxic energy, and we can let our holiday season be contrary to that and disrupt that, and allow us to ignite a different momentum and to feel carried and pulled by a different momentum. So my blessing for us on this Rosh Hashanah is that we'll let that pull of Jewish time help us be guided back to shore. May we feel its gentle tug disrupt the chaotic and swirling waves that have trapped us in deep waters. And once that negative momentum has been disrupted by this holiday season, may we be blessed in feeling carried by the calendar's momentum, not just now, but throughout the whole year. May we experience it as a steady rocking that offers us a perpetual chance to rest, to reset, to reorient, and to return anew. we're never too far away to return. Shana Tova Umetuka. May you have a sweet and blessed new year in this 5780. Shana Tova.